Hi guys, welcome back to Relying on the World's Response, episode 4, Divine Guidance Through My Father's Voice. I have my guest here today and she would like to start off with something that was mentioned in episode 1. So without further ado, my guest.
Thank you for having me again. I just wanted to touch on episode 1 when I saw the spirit on the steps in my family home. I'm not sure if I mentioned that one day after school I arrived home and at the top of the stairs there was a huge Amari vase. The floor was just orange and blue and rust colours. It was massive. And behind on the walls a black and white photograph or a print of a jazz singer. And my dad had purchased these items and placed them at the top of the steps where I'd seen the spirit. And for me, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't connect the two. But later on, as years go by, it just dawned on me, my dad really loved me. He must have loved me because to place those items at the top of the steps and not mention anything to me. But I just remember, before ascending those steps, I would see the Amari vase and the print on the wall. And that's love. That's genuine love. I just wanted to share that with you before we continue the interview. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation. It really puts things into perspective that even though your father didn't communicate with you why he had purchased those items, but he placed them in the exact place you saw the spirit, and that now has made me resonate more with him because he was thinking outside the box. He didn't have to explain to you why he bought them. The conversation wasn't had at the time, but now you can understand why he put them there. And that is love. That's unconditional love. An exceptional father, I feel. What was your relationship like with your father?
The relationship I had with my father growing up was a close relationship. But part of me always felt that he was holding back something. As a child, you feel, you sense. He was only loving to me. Every day when he came home from work, I would hear him ask my mum, "Where is she?" My mum said, "She's upstairs doing her homework." Every day. At the time, I'm not thinking anything of it. You're a kid, that's mum, dad. But every day, he would ask for me. I would come downstairs, we would kiss, we'd hug, or he would come upstairs.
Can you give me an example of you asking your father if you could go somewhere or do something and he said no? Anything, he didn't give you any explanation. Have you got anything you could share with us?
I would ask if I could stay over at a friend's house. It was no. There was one time I asked why, and he said because you have your own bed upstairs. Which made sense. But looking back in hindsight, she did have 2 brothers. So, and a father as well. So I can understand him saying no now, with how the world is. I get it. But at the time, I was so mad. She's my best friend! That sort of drama. There were times when I asked if I could go on school trips. It was no. Because these school trips were like overnight.
It seems your father was very protective of you, not overly protective, because some parents can be overly protective, but due to what you've gone through with your paranormal activity, your dreams, your mirror magic, your intuition, I can understand why he was overly protective of you, protecting you. So, how did that make you feel when you were not allowed to go on the school trips? Did you feel that it was because of the paranormal activity he was trying to keep you safe?
I was sad not being able to go on the school trips, and my dad not explaining to me why. But looking back, it must have been difficult because he didn't lie to me and say, you're not glad because you've been misbehaving, or, you know, he could have made something up. He just said, no, you're not going. On the other hand, he could have said, I don't wish you to go because of what you're going through right now. We don't understand it, and I'm sure you don't understand it. And for us to send you away without, you know, your family around you, it can be dangerous. So I understand that now. But at the time, I was only sad. Not all of my friends did go on the school trip, and we did get to do fun things at school. You forget, you know, that you're not on the trip because you're just engrossed in the activities.
Thank you for that explanation. It gives me a little bit of an insight into your father's parenting. And it must have been so difficult navigating which way to go with you regarding you seeing the paranormal activity. So he was trying to protect you in that sense. And you didn't miss out too much because obviously in secondary school you've got to go on school trips. How was your relationship going forward once you were in secondary school? Did the reins tighten?
Once I was in secondary school, deepened. We were very like-minded. We could discuss like current affairs and politics. He was quite creative within his photography, and I was creative in my arts. So we had something we could talk about. He loved to buy art and antiques, and I loved to admire them. So we had that bond. Looking back, we were very tight, very close, but I feel that once you get to a certain age and other influences come into your life, that bond for me started to unravel slowly.
Can you explain how the bond you had that was so tight, how did that start to weaken and unravel?
I was just maturing and becoming more aware of myself. And I like to express myself through discussion and debating. But my son and my father didn't like that anymore. We kind of butt heads in that respect, where he kind of put a lid on me when I tried to express myself and talk.
Could it have been the change in the dynamics with your father and yourself, with conversations and not flowing as they used to? Could it have been the topics that you were discussing that were of a sensitive nature? Or do you think the way you expressed yourself was not to your father's liking? Because you do say that he was a disciplinarian in the family.
I'm not sure why my father kept me at arm's length during conversations as to before, where we could bounce off each other. He was very smart, intelligent, quick-witted, and the most beautiful handwriting. I admired him so much. I aimed, that was my aim, I was going to be like him.
outsider like myself, you could have touched a nerve with your father, because before conversations were flowing, you're bouncing off each other, communication wasn't a problem. And then as you mature, he keeps you at a distance conversationally. You may have touched a nerve. Maybe, you know, I can't speak to your father, but from what you're talking about and telling me, explaining, it could be where you are maturing, you are intellectually rising. And maybe that could have been a trigger for him. Maybe he felt that maybe he wanted to rise up with you, but didn't have that knowledge to do so.
Thank you for that insight, because I've never thought of it like that. So that's really food for thought. Because I know he had the capacity to match me. Maybe he just didn't have the time, because he's working 7 till, you know, he left the house at 7, returned at 7 in the evening. He's really exhausted. And to be fair, he's got me, you know, wanting to discuss politics and current affairs. So I can see where it could have been tiredness and the capacity to stimulate me wasn't not there anymore. The younger me, yes, because I was in awe of him.
Did you share any other paranormal, telepathic instances with your father going forward?
I'd moved out of home at this point. I had my own flat, not far from my parents, walking distance even. So there's one day when I had an experience that I'll never forget. So I knew, I saw, I felt, I experienced my dad passing. I was in my living room on my sofa. I know exactly where I was. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, feeling. And I just jumped up, screaming and crying. Because I didn't know what was happening. Is it real? Did I dream that? Did I nod off? What is happening? So I immediately put my shoes on and ran across the road to my parents' house.
So this experience you've just had, where you've seen your father possibly passing, and the emotions, you know, you said you screamed and cried and put on your shoes to go and tell your father, which is courageous in itself, to actually have that energy to say, I'm going to go and tell my dad, I'm going to tell my father.
It wasn't a decision that I had to think about. I just immediately put on my shoes, went across the road, knocked on the door, and rang the bell. And both of my parents were at the door at the same time. What's wrong? They both said to me. I said, I had a premonition. Someone's going to die. Dad stepped forward. Don't be silly, he said. He gave me a hug. And I left.
In previous episodes, when you've had your paranormal experiences, your intuition, your parents didn't ponder to you. Once you said what you'd seen, it was pushed to one side and left alone. Now you've gone over, you're much older, you've gone over to your parents' house, explained your premonition, and they just said, it's okay, kiss, hug, bye. Do you feel that they have just brushed you off? I can understand it must be difficult, because if they did home in on that experience you had and got you the right therapy.
It's difficult for me to say either way, to be honest, because we didn't discuss it. They always found a way to make it, they normalise it in a way where it's, it's okay. We all see things now and again. And I can't be mad at that, because I know they were protecting me. But a few weeks later, my dad was rushed to hospital. And at the time I felt as if someone had punched me in the stomach. And I don't know why I couldn't.
So you've gone to your family home where you grew up, but you was unable to tell your father that you saw the premonition and he was involved in that. And you say it could have been source, divine, putting a stop to that, because that's not your role. But you was adamant that you was going to knock on that door, ring that bell, and tell what you saw. But it wasn't for you to tell. That must be hard. To have that premonition and know what you've seen, but you can't relay it how you want to relay it because you've been stopped by higher powers.
Although I had the premonition, I still wanted to be untrue. I wanted to give my father the heads up. And for whatever reason, higher powers stopped me from doing so. I just wanted him to prepare himself, we can do this, we can do that before it comes, whatever is going to happen. And then when I got the call that he had collapsed en route to work, it was devastating. And because I'm older now, and I can understand a bit more, that's when it kind of dawned on me that, oh, you are psychic. You can see the future.
Can I just say how brave you are? Just need to sit with that a moment. So now you're aware of your psychic abilities. It's confirmation now that what you were seeing, experienced from the age of 8 in your family home was genuine. So now you have that on top of your father being taken to hospital. And like you say, it's a whirlwind. I can imagine. Well, I can't imagine, but that's a lot.
So once in hospital, they did operate, and the operation was successful. A few days later, early hours of the morning, I received a call to say, I'm so sorry. Excuse me, Mother. He had died. And I feel like I could have saved him if I would have been able to verbalise what I had seen.
I'm so sorry for your loss, because I can actually feel your pain, because some of it's unresolved. So if you're able, can we continue with what happened after your father passed away?
So, my father's now passed. I have seen him in the hospital with all the tubes. And he's just lying there, all these tubes, you know. And he looked like he was sleeping. And I remember singing him a hymn. I sang Kumbaya. My mum and my sisters were there too. So I've gone home, ran the bath, just crying, just sobbing, just uncontrollable crying. And then I'm home alone. The bathroom door open and closed. It's a little slight tap where you know that it hasn't been closed securely. So I said, hello? No answer. Who's there? No answer. And then a black shape appeared in the bathroom above my head, and it was manic, frantic, as though it lost its way, and it was pinging from corner to corner in this bathroom. And the shape was similar to a fish. And it was going back and forth, and I just sat there crying, seeing this shadow just ping-pong itself from corner to corner very quickly, very erratic. And when it stopped, it was above my head, and then gone. Just by magic. And I said, Dad, is that you? Sorry.
Sorry guys, we're both very emotional here. Take a moment. So, in the bath, this shape, like a fish you say, is darting from one corner of the room to another, erratically, quickly. And you ask, is that you, Dad? Do you believe or do you feel that it was your dad?
100% yes, because what follows on is confirmation also. At the time, I wasn't sure what was going on, because I'm, up to the first day I'm grieving. meditation, and has really helped me grieve and has helped me move forward on a day-to-day basis with all these signs, dreams, visitations.
Would it be possible for you to share with us some of the things or the stages that you've been through after your father passed? Like the visitations and the signs, messages, dreams. Would you be able to share that with us?
It was about a week after my father had passed that I had a dream, and he was on a boat, a ship. It was huge and it was white and it had sails, and he was on this ship also, dressed in white and much younger, and he was very happy. And what I took from that was because when we used to talk when I was much younger, he said that he grew up on an abandoned deck, and to see him on this immaculate ship, so extravagant, that was comfort for me.
It seems like your father was an adventurer, very creative, especially on the ship, and saying that he grew up on an abandoned deck. I love that. The narrative fits in with after him passing, that it's kind of come full circle, that it was an abandoned deck. I don't know what state that abandoned deck was in, but to go out on an immaculate white ship, what more could you ask for?
I needed that. I needed to know he was safe. I needed to know that if he was going to communicate with me, I would understand that communication. So for me, that was beautiful, and it made sense. Going forward, I would see him again on his route to work. So I knew the route he would take, and I saw him standing in a particular place in his work outfit and his bag. And you know when you look and then you look again and you can't believe it, and by the time I collected my stuff, my bag to rush over, he had gone.
Do you feel that your father is communicating with you because he knows of your spiritual gifts, your spiritual nature? Because he, you know, you've spoken to him about it. He's witnessed this paranormal, psychic, mirror magic happen. So do you feel that he chose you to, you know, to communicate with, to let you know, to comfort you, because he knows you're open to it? He knows you're of the light.
Although we didn't discuss in depth my paranormal experiences, my premonitions, I know that he knows that he's safe, that he can use me as a vessel when needed. always wanted the best for me, always encouraging me. So for me, in my heart, that's where he belongs. There isn't anybody to date that could fulfill his shoes. And the only thing I regret is not spending more time and listening to his wise words. That's the only regret I have. Spending quality time with the man that had time for me.
I like your last comments about your father. At least he has left a positive imprint in your life going forward. That you know that the bar is up here. So, although you grieve, and everyone grieves differently, different stages, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later. But I like how you've got him on that pedestal. I like those words you used, that he had you by his side, protecting you, showing you the way, loving you the best way he knew how to love you, the best way he knew how to guide you. He didn't put you in harm's way. To keep him in your heart is precious. My next question is, do you feel that your father may have been intuitive also? Could he have been psychic?
We were very like-minded. I don't know if he had any abilities, any gifts, because he didn't share those with me if that was the case. But who knows, maybe. Because he is communicating with me to this day from the other side. So that is an interesting question for me to ponder on. Thank you for that.
So you mentioned that your father uses you as a vessel from time to time. Can you give us some more examples of that?
He's passing. I have given messages to my mum. Because she found it very hard after he had passed. So I hope that was comforting for her. There was one time when I was very low and I had a visitation, not only from my father, they must have been ancestors that have passed that maybe I've never met, grandparents that have passed. I was in bed, asleep, but it's very vivid dreaming. And I was having one of those days where I just wasn't feeling great. And then I floated out of my bed and I was going towards the door. And as I got to the door, the same shape of the spirit shapes and sizes at my door, my front door. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And I wasn't scared because I'd seen that shape before, similar spirits before. So I was trying to walk towards the door, because I'm coming with you guys. You don't even need to hide. And they said, go back. Go back. I was like, oh, okay then. I'm not wanted then. So I was really quite upset, to be honest. I wanted to go. And then I woke up.
Thank you for that insight. I'm just curious because when you say that you were in bed and you woke up and you was floating and you saw those spirits, that shape you saw in the bath after your dad had passed, and you wanted to go. Where did you think you were going? You wanted, you're going because you're familiar with these spirits, this shape. You want to go with them, but did you know where they were going? The destination.
I had no idea what the destination was, but it felt right. I felt protected. I felt that, yes, I'm ready. But no, they said go back. And the second go back was very firm. And I understood they were serious. But I loved to see it. I can still see it now. And it was beautiful.
You mentioned an awakening. Can we have some more clarity on that, please?
I can only explain from my experiences, but it's kind of like a renewal of interest, of self, authentic awareness. I do feel a shift in myself, and it goes deeper. Where previously they were hidden, I feel that I was on a path, but I may have been sidetracked, and now I'm back on the right path. That's the only way I can explain it.
When you say that you can feel a shift in yourself, it goes deeper now. A renewal of interests, authentic awareness. Has that developed since your father has passed? Or did it come sort of all at once? Or is it a gradual process that we're dealing with here? Or that you're dealing with here?
This awakening for me is a work in progress, and it is gradual. So it's self-love. It's knowing my boundaries. It's knowing who to keep at a distance and who to bring in. It's just a knowing who wants to dim my light. I'm more aware consciously now. As before, it was dulled down. But now I feel like I have a new light. And it's really empowering and pushing me forward into the light. I'm not of the dark.
Thank you for explaining that, because you're now awake mentally and present with a clear understanding of your own thoughts, emotions and surroundings. And what I've taken from it, instead of being on autopilot, you're more grounded now. So this is positive going forward. I love this for you. You're consciously aware.
There was a catalyst that pushed me in your direction for you to interview me regarding my paranormal intuition, psychic abilities. And that was, I read a book. The title is The Signs, and it's by Dr. Tara Swart. And reading through her book, it was like a reminder of what my life has been since the age of 8. And then she's come along and just condensed her grief into one book. Whereas I feel like mine's been a lifetime of events. So everything in her book that I read, I was tick, 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 been there, done that, this is old hat. And it was nice to read it because I could relate to it, identify myself with her, but there wasn't anything in there that was new to me. But I found the book comforting to know that I'm not alone, that there are other people out there speaking their truth.
I am so happy you asked me to do this interview because one, I'm out of my depth, and two, I love it. I've really loved interviewing you and talking to you and learning from you. It's a whole different ball game. And now I get to have my Oprah moment because the book you were referring to, I have it here. So this is the book. I'm not promoting it or anything, guys. I just wanted to show you the book if you want to read more on the signs by Tara Swart. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it here now and say thank you for joining us and stay tuned for episode 5. Thanks, guys. Bye.